Hey guys, it's Alexandra from EyeLoveKnots.com and CreationCrochet.com. Today we're going to be working up this flower, and this can be used in so many different projects. You can use it as it is, sew it on to embellish different things. You can add another round to close it in to turn it into a hexagon or a square, and then use all those squares to sew together for a project. But one of my favorite ways to use it outside of this little applique itself is going to be to join as you go into the petals of the flowers, to join a lot of them together. I've created a table runner, a wall hanging, but you can use the same concept to do a blanket or a garment or a scarf. There's a lot of different things that you can do with it once you create that fabric. I am working on putting together some tutorials for bigger projects, but all of them are going to start with this one flower. As it's worked here in worsted weight cotton yarn, this is the perfect size for a coaster. So if you just work up one flower in the worsted weight cotton, then you'll have a great coaster. You can make a bunch of different colors so that you have a complete garden. And then if you want to do the other projects too, like I said, they all start with one complete flower. So I'm using WeCrochet Dishie yarn. That's a worsted weight number 4 yarn. The yellow color in the center is called Bumblebee, and then I have white for my petals because I wanted it to look like a daisy. But you could do brown in the center and yellow to get more of a sunflower. Really, any color combination is great. I've done so many different ones. I'll put some pictures up of projects that I've done using this flower so you can see the different color combinations. Together with this worsted weight yarn, you're going to want to use an H8 5mm crochet hook. This is my favorite hook that I ordered from Sienna's Boutique on Etsy. I'll pop the link for it in the description box if you're interested. Gauge is not essential for this project unless the finished size is essential to you. So I'll pop the gauge down for round 2, which is the last round of increasing before you get to the petals. If you're working a project where it's very important that the finished flower comes out to the correct size, then you'll want to go ahead and check your gauge. If you're measuring smaller, go up a crochet hook size and rework it. If you're measuring larger, go down a crochet hook size and rework it. I haven't worked any projects where gauge was essential to me, but I do have that information and I will provide it to you if you want your flower to come out to the same exact size as my flower. And the measurements that I'll provide down below for the finished size is going to be here where you have 3 petals on the top, 3 petals on the bottom, from that tip of the top petal all the way down to the tip of the bottom petal, and then measuring the width flat on the left side, all the way across flat on the right side where the petals are. That's going to be the width. Again, gauge and the finished size are not essential unless the finished size of this project is essential to you. If you're going to be working individual flowers, they can be a variety of sizes, so on to a lot of different projects. If you're going to be joining as you go to create larger things like the table runner, then as long as all the flowers are the same size, that's all that really matters. And you can change this up. I have used worsted weight yarn, but you could go with a number 10 thread. You could also go with a number 6 super bulky yarn. You're going to get different size flowers. But for a coaster, worsted weight yarn is the best with the H8 hook. And real quick, if you are making a coaster, it does not matter if you use acrylic yarn, wool yarn, cotton yarn. All those yarns are going to be great. Sometimes you want to be careful what fibers you use. For example, if you were putting something fresh out of the oven right on top of the coaster and it was made with an acrylic yarn, which is a synthetic yarn, it could melt the fibers and then burn you. but a hot cup of coffee is not hot enough to melt fibers, so if you want to use Red Heart Super Saver for a coaster, you absolutely can. It also does pretty well with cold drinks. I have several coasters that I made myself with Red Heart Super Saver. They have held up great. I also really like Lion Brand Wool Ease. It washes and dries really well. So whatever you have in your stash if you want to do coasters is going to work perfectly. You're going to find the written pattern for this in the description box below. If you're interested in seeing a specific project made with these squares, please drop me a comment to let me know what you want to see made with it. A blanket, a scarf, a shawl. I am going to be working through some tutorials. I do have some designs already done, so I'll link the written patterns for those, and once I get video tutorials done, I'll go ahead and put those in as well. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with a slip knot, so I've pulled the yarn over my fingers here. I'm going to wrap it around my index finger 2 times. Hold the tension with my thumb and my middle finger. Pull the loop on the left up over the other one but not off my finger. Then I'll pull the other one that's on the left now up over the other one I just moved and off my finger. Grab my crochet hook, insert it into the loop on my finger and pull it off. Hold the working yarn in my right hand, short tail end in my left. I'm going to pull that so this loop will go to normal tension. We're going to start with a chain 5 and then we're going to slip stitch join to form a ring. And then we'll work into that ring. If you are more comfortable doing a magic ring, you can do that. But I'm going to start with a chain 5. To chain, we yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Each time we do that, we're going to get one of these V-shaped stitches here. Each one of those is going to be a chain. So we don't count the loop on our hook. We have 1, 2, 3 chains so far. I'm going to continue adding a couple more so that I will have 5. And now I want to slip stitch join to the first chain of the ring. So we're going to go all the way down to the bottom where we made that first chain. Hold the tension of the loop on my hook. Bring it horizontally. Insert my hook right into the center of that first chain. Then yarn over, pull through that stitch and through the loop that's on my hook. And now we've slip stitch joined and we have this ring here in the center to work into. We have a hole at the top where we just joined to. We want to make sure we don't work into that. That's just going to open up a little bit because this knot is not secured yet. But we want to work into that larger ring underneath. We're going to work 12 double crochets into this center ring. So we're going to start with a chain 2, and this chain 2 does not count as a stitch. Now we'll yarn over, insert our hook right into the center of that ring. When you do that, you're going to have a chain sitting on top of your hook. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through. Right now we have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That's going to complete our first double crochet. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook back into the center ring. As we continue to work, we're going to have that tail end held to the back of the chains. So we'll have the chain on our hook as well as that tail end. Yarn over, pull through. 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into that center ring. You have the chain and the tail end on your hook. Yarn over, pull through. 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So right now I'm going to pull this out real quick. We're going to look to the top. We have these V shapes here at the top. Each one of those is going to be a stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3 double crochets. We're going to continue working so that we have 12 double crochets. And now that we have 12 double crochets, we're going to slip stitch join to the first stitch of the round. And if you're not sure where the first stitch is, it's really helpful to count backwards from where you just finished. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we want to insert our hook underneath both loops of that first stitch. Then yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on our hook to complete a slip stitch. And now our first round is complete. I'm going to pull up a loop here. This center ring that we have, we can hold on the back side in between our middle finger and our index finger where the tail end is coming out of the center. And I have my thumb on the front. Go ahead and tug on that strand. Don't pull too tight or your strand can tear, so just pull it a little bit and it will close that up. We're going to secure that completely closed when we go to weave in our ends. We're going to have one more round in this same color. We're going to start with a chain 2. Again, that does not count as a stitch. I like to work my increases a little bit different. That's what I'm going to show you here at the beginning and at the end. But if you're more comfortable just working 2 stitches into this first stitch, go ahead and do it. But I'm going to work 1 double crochet into this very first stitch that my chain is coming out of, making sure to pick up both loops there. Then I'm going to work 2 double crochets into the next stitch. And I'm going to continue to work 2 double crochets into each stitch all the way around until I get back to the beginning. And once I get back over here, I'm going to have my last set of 2 worked into this stitch right here. And then I'm going to have 1 stitch that I'm going to work into that same stitch as the chain. At the end of this round, we're going to have 24 double crochets. So I had 1 in the first stitch, then 2 in that next stitch makes 3, 2 in the next stitch makes 5. I'm going to keep counting as I work all the way around so that I know after I get to 23 right here, I have 1 more stitch left. And there we are at the end of the round. I have 23 complete with my last set of 2. I'm going to work 1 more stitch into this next stitch, which is the same stitch that my chain is coming out of. My hook is just being inserted here to the right. And the stitch will come out to the right of the chain as well. That's going to complete 24 stitches. Now I need to slip stitch join, and when I do that I'm going to bring in my new color. So let me show you the way that is my favorite way to make a seamless color change. I'm going to insert my hook under both loops of that first double crochet. And if you're not sure where the first double crochet is, remember you can use those V shapes at the top there to count backwards from where you just finished. Insert my hook there under both loops, yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop on my hook. That actually is the slip stitch join to complete the round. Then I'm going to put this down. I'm going to grab my new color, which is going to be white. I'm going to form a loop here near the end, leaving a tail end long enough that I can comfortably weave in. It's actually a little bit too much. And then I'm going to put this loop on my hook. So I'm going to hold the tension of the loop that's currently on there with my index finger, put the loop on my hook, hold the tension of the strands on the back. That way this loop on my hook doesn't really go anywhere. And I'm going to pull this new color through. Then I'm going to grab that original strand and I'm going to give it a tug so this yellow loop that you see there will disappear. Then I'm going to drop that to the back, drop the tail end of the new color to the back, and then I'm going to grab my working yarn, pull it down to normal tension, and start with a chain 1. If that yellow loop pops back up, you just go to the back, find the tail end, and give it a tug, and it will disappear again. This is my favorite way to change colors for this project to get the most seamless color change right here. You can change in the last yarn over of the final slip stitch here at the end of round 2, but it completely disrupts the color change right here, and the stitches from this round are going to pull on the yellow stitches and it really just distorts it in a way that it's not very pretty. So if you don't want to change this using this method that I just showed you to get the same look, you can slip stitch join at the end of round 2 with the yellow, then fasten off and then reattach your new color into the first stitch. But to save me a little trouble so I don't have to go that extra step, I just go ahead and change in this manner instead. Now I'm ready to do round 3, but before I do that I'm going to go ahead and fasten off the yellow. So just leave a tail end long enough to weave in. And now I'm ready to go for round 3. We're going to work a single crochet into this very first stitch. Insert your hook into that stitch underneath both loops. Yarn over, pull through. You have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through both loops. Then we're going to skip the next stitch, and in that next stitch we're going to work 3 double crochets. So I've yarned over, insert my hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That's 1 double crochet. I'm going to continue working, so I have 3 double crochets, and I'm going to insert my hook all into the same stitch. So now I have 3 double crochets complete. 1, 2, 3. Going to chain 2. And I'm going to work 3 more double crochets back into that same stitch. So there's going to be 6 in total, all worked into the same stitch. This is going to create one of our petals. Then I'm going to skip the next stitch, and in the next stitch I'm going to work a single crochet, insert my hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. And then I'm going to pull up a loop really quick. Those 6 stitches in that chain are going to form our petal there, and the single crochets on both sides are going to create that curve and anchor it in place. It's going to help us with the shaping. So our repeat throughout the whole thing actually starts with the single crochet we just finished. It's going to be single crochet into that next stitch, skip the next stitch, and then in the next stitch we're going to make another petal. So we're skipping this next stitch here, and in this next stitch we're going to do 3 double crochets, all worked into that same stitch, then chain 2, then 3 more double crochets worked back into that same stitch. And then skip the next stitch. Then our repeat begins. In the next stitch, single crochet, insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through both loops. That's now just anchored our petal. Then skip the next stitch, and in that next stitch, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets back into that same stitch. Then we skip the next stitch. Then the repeat again, single crochet in the next stitch, skip the next stitch, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets into the next stitch, skip the next stitch. You're going to continue that all the way around till you're back to the beginning. Right now we have 3 petals. We're going to have 6 petals at the end of this round, and then we'll join together. Here at the end I worked my last petal. I have 1 stitch left that I'm going to leave unworked, and then we're going to slip stitch join. To get the angle here to match the rest of them, I'm actually going to work my single crochet into the double crochet that the first single crochet was worked into. So that's the yellow double crochet underneath. So I'm going to insert my hook into that same stitch that that first single crochet is coming out of, and then yarn over and pull through the loop on my hook. And I'm going to pull up a loop here really quick. This is going to help keep the look here the same as the others. But if you don't like the way that that looks, instead you can slip stitch join to the first single crochet, or you could even slip stitch join to the first double crochet. You can experiment a little bit with it. Now I'm going to fasten off Just make sure to leave a tail end long enough that you can comfortably weave in. Then pull up on this loop to break it. And now when I weave in my ends, I am going to secure these 2 layers closed, because right now where I slip stitch joined, this top is open. So I'm just going to secure that closed when I go ahead and weave in my ends. Go ahead and grab your tapestry needle and meet me back here so we can finish up this flower. Alright, I'm going to flip this to the back. I'm going to go for that center tail first, thread it into my tapestry needle. I'm going to work clockwise underneath those stitches all the way until I get back to the beginning. So I'm just going to insert underneath a couple stitches at a time. And this here is going to put me back at the beginning. I'm actually going to work a couple more stitches past that, and when I come out of that last stitch, I'm going to break that stitch in half with my needle. I'm going to come out through the center of it, and that's going to help capture my yarn. Hold the fabric in between your fingers as you pull so it doesn't pull on that last stitch that you came out of. Now you have that hole there in the center. Hold the fabric in between your fingers and give that strand a tug, and remember not to pull too tight. You just want to close it up, but you don't want to break your strand. Then you're going to rotate your fabric and you're going to work back in the same direction you just came from, inserting into a nearby stitch. I always break my stitches in half when I enter and exit. I don't pick up the whole stitch on my needle here like this. Instead, I insert right into the center of it to break it in half. That's going to help capture my yarn so that it is more secured. So I'm inserting into a nearby stitch, and then I'm going to run vertically through several of those same stitches I just worked through. And when I exit, I'm going to break that last stitch in half as well. Then I'm going to hold on to the fabric in between my fingers. I'm going to pull that needle through, give it a tug, then go back and use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if I need to, if it's distorted the fabric. We want it to lay naturally. I like to do 3 passes, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate it, insert into a nearby stitch here, breaking it in half, run vertically through several of those same stitches, and then break my last stitch in half when I exit as well. If you feel secure after 2, you can fasten off then. If you feel like you need to work a 4th one, you can do that too. Whatever you need to feel secure with your ends. Give it a tug, use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if I need to, and then I'm ready to fasten off. Now I'm going to go ahead and come here to this last stitch that I fastened off at the end, thread that into my tapestry needle, and I'm going to bring it here from the right side, which is the front, down to the wrong side, which is the back, through that first single crochet there. So you just want to sew the 2 layers together, and since it's sitting right on top of that stitch, that's where I'm going to go ahead and insert my needle right into the center of that first stitch through both loops and come out on the back side. And you'll see the placement there. If you don't like the way the placement looks now, then go ahead and take it out and move your stitch over to the left or over to the right, wherever you need, so that the stitch placement looks the way you want it to finish. Then flip to the back side, and for weaving in this, I want to keep the white together so that it doesn't pop through any of the yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and come here to the left of where I am, I'm going to bring my needle, just wrapping it around one of the stitches there nearby so that I can get it over into the bulkiness of this petal over here. So I'm not weaving in, I'm just wrapping it around stitches so that it doesn't have any floats. It's nice and even, blends in there on the back. I'm going to do it one more time here with the stitch next to it on the left, coming from underneath this time, so that it wraps around there. And then I'm going to do it again in this next stitch here, and it's going to bring me into position to work horizontally through the bulkiness of this petal. So I'm just going to wrap around one more stitch right here, just underneath where I am. And now I'm right next to the opening for the petal. So I'm going to go ahead, break that first stitch in half here and run horizontally through the bulkiness of those stitches from that petal, breaking my last stitch in half when I exit. Then hold on to the fabric in between my fingers. It's going to help so that it doesn't distort any of your fabric. Give it a tug and then manipulate your fabric. It's important to make sure it's laying naturally and it hasn't bunched up from where you pulled from the beginning here. Then rotate your fabric, insert into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, run back through several of those same stitches there in the same bulkiness, and break the last stitch in half when you exit. Hold on to the fabric, pull it through, give it a tug, manipulate if you need to. One more pass for me will make 3. I'm going to manipulate it here using my needle to help me separate my stitches. I want to make sure it doesn't look bunched up, and then I can go ahead and fasten off. Now I'm going to weave in these last 2 ends using the same exact method, but this yellow one here from round 2, I'm going to weave it vertically into these double crochet stitches here. That's going to help hide it so the stitches don't bunch up horizontally. So just run it vertically up and down here. This other white one, I'm going to wrap it around my stitches to get me in place so that I can work through the bulkiness of this other petal here. Same way as I did this first one. And once I get those 2 in, then the whole flower will be ready to go. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. You're going to find the written pattern for this in the description box below, as well as some other ideas that you can do with this flower. But if you'd like to see a specific project, please make sure to drop me a comment to let me know what you would like to see made with this flower. And I will work on some project tutorials for that. It would help me out so much if you smashed that like button to let YouTube know that you liked this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well, and I'll catch you in the next one.